to film this for my education purposes. Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna do a very, very short presentation and with some tips to do a successful opening. So, the first step to begin an opening is a pre-assessment that we're gonna do. And we have no burr, no micromotor or anything in our hands. We just have the patient, we have maybe a pocket sonda, and we have an x-ray, okay? So what do you guys think that are some things that we should look for outside before entering the tooth to have a successful opening?
Inclination,
Yes.
Walks in the wortelwelving.
Yes, so this is one of the things that Katja mentioned before, and it's check if the tooth has some ungulation. Maybe the tooth is rotated, so maybe we have to notice that as well. Not only that it's angulated or tipping, but if it's rotated. What else can you think of?
If there's fitting in the teeth.
Okay, yeah. But I'm thinking more about landmarks that we see normally in teeth. No. So I'm thinking more about we have to locate the CEJ, so the cement enamel junction, okay? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
All right, so usually the CEJ is going to show us and give us a lot of information about what shape of the pulp chamber is. For example, if we note, we use a sonda and we see that the CEJ or the form of the tooth is very narrow, right? Most likely, and not most likely, but very certainly, that pulp chamber is going to replicate that aspect, okay? So how the CEJ, if I see a CEJ that is like bulgy in the outside and it's heart-shaped, my pulp chamber is going to be that shape, okay? So that's very important to know. And the distance that we find from the external wall of the tooth where the CEJ is, not on the top, but where the CEJ it's the same from every part of the tooth. We're gonna find the pulp chamber in the center of that area. So it's the same diameter, okay? Does that make sense?
No, sorry.
No?
No.
Okay, let's say that this is the pulp chamber, and here is the circumference of the CEJ. It's gonna be the same millimeters from every external area to the internal area,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as he said, I don't know your name, Roy. Right, yeah. As Roy said, note any angulation or rotations present in the tooth. That's very important. We have to also, this is in the syllabus, we have to measure the length that is, and this we can do in an x-ray. We have to measure the length that we have from the tip of the cusp, right, until the pulp chamber. And this is going to give you a very safe measurement of, I need to stop here, okay? If I haven't found the canals here, maybe I'm tipping to one side or another, but I need to stop here, okay? Does that make sense? Now that we have all this information, we can grab our bores and start drilling, okay? Okay, so this is the article. I highly suggest that you guys read this article. This article talks about some laws that we have to, that help us, guide us while in the chamber. And it's called Anatomy of the Pulp Chamber Floor. It was written by Krasner and Branco. And what it says is we can guide ourselves inside the tooth following some laws. Unfortunately, some of these laws don't apply to upper molars, but for mandibular molars, they work, and for the rest of the teeth. Okay, so the first law states that except for maxillary molars, the orifices of the canals are equidistant from a line drawn in mesial distant direction through the pulp chamber floor. What does this mean? If I trace a line through the middle of the tooth, we're gonna have a mirror image, okay? So if I have 2 canals on this side, I have to look for 2 canals on this side, okay? Let's say that there is a canal in the center of this line. Do I have to look for another canal?
No.
Exactly, because I'm already in the middle, right? Good. So that is the first law, and this law is coupled with the law of symmetry 2. And what this says is that, except for the maxillary molars, the orifices of the canal lie on a line perpendicular to the first line that we drew, okay? In a mutual distal direction across the center of the floor of the pulp chamber. So what does this mean? Is that we're gonna find the canals on this line. It's not that we're gonna find the canal up here and the other down here, but they're gonna be in the same line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Another exception, other than maxillary molars, are C-shaped canals. Does anybody here know what a C-shaped canal is? What's a C-shaped canal?
If you look at it from a coronal perspective, it has the form of a C, and they're very common in the second lower molars, right? I think.
Wow,
Yeah.
5 stars.
I had one on my test, so I'm traumatized by it.
Yeah, that's it. So from a coronal perspective, sometimes there is a classification for C-shaped canals, but sometimes what we would look at, it looks like a C. And sometimes you can maybe look at an X-ray and identify them. Most of the time they have fused roots, and you can say, oh, this probably is a C-shaped canal. But mostly you say, okay, it is a C-shaped canal when you look at it and you see the opening and it's a C, okay? All right. Who here knows about Star Wars? I know that the age group is difficult for that. Roy knows everything today, he's on fire. So Star Wars, it's a very popular movie for older people, but basically it's about...
It was not on film.
For my generation, or older generations, but it's mostly about good and evil, dark and light. So of course, dark is evil. We are on the dark side of the force, okay? So we're always going to follow the dark side when we're in the chamber. What does that mean? When I look at a pulp chamber, I have to follow the pulp floor. If I see the dark lines, I'm safe, okay? Do you guys see the difference? For example, when I see the pulp chamber, I see that it's darker than when I see the canal walls, the chamber walls.
Mm-hmm.
The chamber walls are white. The canal floor is gray, okay? If you start seeing too much white, you're in the wrong way. You're in the wrong direction, okay? Does that make sense? And you're probably gonna see it when we start practicing. It's okay, it happens. But now you know that you have a subscription and you have to watch Star Wars. And another thing, this is another article by Ranko and Krasner, and it talks a little bit about the aha phenomenon. So what does this aha mean? It means that basically when we enter a tooth and we expose maybe one area of the pulpoduct, we think, okay, I'm gonna start jumping and looking for canals. No, we have to refrain ourselves from doing this, and what we're gonna do is that we have to stay focused and just remove the, what's the name? Duck. Roof, yes. So we have to remove the roof. When we remove enough roof, when we have removed the totality of the roof, the canals are going to expose themselves to us. And we're gonna say, aha, there they are. So we don't have to go poking around to search for the canals just yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, that was basically it. Do we have questions, comments, or something that you guys want to share with us, or that you think has been handy for you guys while finding canals?
No, sometimes find it trouble, like if you see at the bottom white, do you sometimes also need to remove from the bottom if it's very calcified? Like
Yes,
you
but
can-
sometimes we have pulp stones.
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
I think so. I don't know what that's from.
Okay, so more advanced when we have calcified canals, because that's another topic. When we have calcified canals, it's like a little, it looks like a piece of glass that is blocking, it looks like shiny.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's blocking, it's sometimes in the pulpa floor, and sometimes it blocks the entrance of the canals, so we do have to remove them so we can get access. But this is another situation. In a normal situation, not normal, but in a not so difficult case, we won't have this.
So if you remove the pulp duct, then you will see it right away.
Exactly, you will see the canals. You will get, of course, if you have a vital pulp, you have to remove the bleeding tissue so you can see. Because sometimes we get a little panicky because we start to see too much blood. But when we remove the tissue that is bleeding, we are gonna get to see. Okay? Any more questions?
We were wondering about, let's say, it is bleeding now. Like, what do you do to make it stop bleeding quickly?
So what you have to do is remove as much tissue of the tissue that is bleeding as possible. Because once you remove that tissue that is bleeding, you're gonna start and spool with your natrium. Yeah, this is going to be every day in your head. Katya says it all the time, but then it becomes automatical. So remove the pulp, the tissue that is bleeding, and irrigate. Okay, carefully.
What happens if it's not, it will not stop bleeding?
Okay, sometimes if it doesn't stop bleeding, Katya is the sort of person that she just waits until it stops bleeding. She goes for a coffee, she just takes a chill. Sometimes I grow very impatient with this, and I just can close it and call the patient and come tomorrow, and yeah, depends on your personality and the time that you have.
Because to follow up on our question is a dentist I used to work with. He works in periodontics, so that's maybe a little bit different. He uses the dapperglaasje with cotton pallets, and then he puts some anesthetic in it, and then he stops the bleeding with the anesthetic because it contains a vasoconstrictor.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes also use that or do that or?
Yeah, you can do that. You can also use how do you say amoxicillin?
Peroxide.
Peroxide. That can work also, but I think that removing the tissue that is bleeding is the most effective way with nut. It's the most effective way to stop
But
the
for
bleeding.
you to, can I stop? It's 13.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.